If you care at all about Linux, BSD, and free and open source software, you've probably heard the name Richard Stallman. He is an incredibly important man to the state that we have today. He is the founder of the FSF, otherwise known as the Free Software Foundation, but not just the founder of this specific group. He is also the founder of the free software movement as a movement, and I think it's fair to say that if Richard Stallman never had existed, if Linus Torvalds did actually go on to make Linux, it probably wouldn't exist as an open source project. It would probably be closed source, and we wouldn't have all of this amazing software that we have today on places like GitHub and GitLab that make it so I can actually do what I do every day. But back in September 2019, after some really poorly thought out comments about Marvin Minsky and Jeffrey Epstein, along with some older blog posts ranging from 2001 to 2006 or so, where he made some pretty questionable statements regarding the age of consent laws, he was removed from being the president of the Free Software Foundation, basically getting him kicked out of the FSF. Now, I'm not here to discuss old news. I don't really think it's important to talk about whether I think that what he said was right or wrong. There were plenty of videos from the time that do a much better job than I'm going to do today, and there's no way you can go back and change the past, so we might as well move onward from that. I can understand, though, why the FSF did want to distance themselves from the statements that he did make. However, let's look at what's happening now. So, during a LibrePlanet 2021 stream, this announcement right here was made. So let's go and actually hear his own words making the announcement.
First, I have an announcement to make. I'm now on the Free Software Foundation Board of Directors once again. We were working on a video to announce this with, but that turned out to be difficult. We didn't have experience doing that sort of thing, so it didn't get finished, but here's the announcement. Some of you will be happy at this, and some might be disappointed, but who knows? In any case, that's how it is. And I'm not planning to resign a second time.
I don't know how elaborate of a video they were thinking of doing, but I can't imagine doing that would have been that difficult. However, this serves basically as an announcement anyway. As of the recording of this video, the FSF hasn't actually written a blog post about this. They may have made some official statement on Mastodon or somewhere like that. I haven't seen it though. So at this point, all that exists is a couple of articles from places like The Verge and Ars Technica, along with this video here. And nothing's been confirmed at this stage, but according to a website called Tech Rights, there has been some whisperings about maybe reinstating Richard Stallman as the president of the FSF. However, at this stage, none of that's happened. He is just on the board of directors. But I wouldn't really be surprised if that did happen at some point, and he definitely sounds like he has no interest in backing down. And if he wants to retake the position as president, that is the exact sort of attitude I would expect. Now, I'm not here to start a fight about this like the people on Reddit who couldn't even agree on what he initially said and were just arguing back and forth about whether this was a good thing, mainly saying it wasn't a good thing, or like the people over on Hacker News who, I'm not joking about this, have a giant thread in here basically discussing Richard Stallman's autism and whether that excuses what he originally said. I don't know why this thread actually exists. I just want to talk about what is actually happening and what it actually means. Now, I think this is a really good move for the FSF and the free software movement in general because, like it or not, Richard Stallman is the face of free software. When you think about the free software movement, he is the one person that comes to mind. But he's a bit more than just the face. So if we go look at something like Python, the face of Python, I would say, is their ex-benevolent dictator for life, Guido van Rossum, who basically had the final decision on anything that went into the language, even though it was always a community effort. Same with like Linus Torvalds. When you think of Linux, you think of Linus Torvalds, but when Linus eventually leaves the project, I wouldn't expect it to suddenly change. However, I look at the FSF a little bit differently though. I look at the FSF as basically the ideological arm of Richard Stallman. It embodies what Richard Stallman thinks of software as, how he views licenses, how he views the importance of freedom, the definition of those freedoms themselves, because there are different ways you can define the freedoms of software. Say, for example, the way Open Source Initiative does it, they have more of a business focus, whereas the Free Software Foundation has more of a focus on the end user. And when you have these different focuses, you are logically going to have a different conclusion. So in my mind, because of how important Richard Stallman is to the way the FSF is actually structured, without Richard Stallman, you really don't have an FSF. Now, I know it's kept existing. That's not what I mean by that. I mean, it just doesn't have its same sort of like ideological strength, I guess you'd call it. Now, it's one thing to be ideologically extreme in favor of free software. I guarantee that if you go somewhere like, I don't know, G, you'll probably find someone as extreme or more extreme about free software than Richard Stallman, but Richard Stallman is a very difficult to replace leader because he's not just ideologically extreme, he's also incredibly passionate and incredibly charismatic as well. And having all of those things in a single person is a rare thing indeed. Now, I know, haha funny, Richard Stallman eats things from his toes, haha funny, he sings the free software song and he does dumb little dances from time to time. Like, all of that stuff is, I can agree, it's really dumb, but I think that's sort of what gives him part of his charm. Like, could you imagine anyone else besides Richard Stallman leading the free software movement? And just in case you were curious, the current president of the FSF is this guy right here, Jeffrey Knuth, who I believe was on the board of directors for 20 years before he actually became the president. Now, he's probably doing a perfectly fine job, but just compare this face to the crazy bearded man. Personally, I prefer the crazy bearded man. Now, because the FSF hasn't made a proper statement about this, even though Richard Stallman is now on the board of directors, we don't really know what his role is going to be or what level of influence he's going to have, but it's a first step, and maybe the mutterings will come true. Maybe after a year or a couple of years, he will return to being the president. But regardless of the images that may exist out there, Richard Stallman is only mortal, and one day, regardless of what you actually think about him, he will have to be replaced. And I hope that next time this happens, it ends up being a much slower process. So I want someone who actually is a true replacement of Richard Stallman, hopefully someone who is just as charismatic and just as passionate to take the vision of free software into future generations. Now, with the early response I've seen, the response seems to be incredibly mixed. On places like Reddit, people are getting unsurprisingly angry because that's what Reddit does, but on places like Twitter and Mastodon, it seems to be far more like mixed what the result actually is. So I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen as there's more media coverage from other tech outlets. And I don't expect that if the FSF is willing to bring him back after the comments that he originally made, that he's going to get removed from the FSF for the exact same reasons. If you want to get him removed again, I don't think you should. You're going to have to try much harder next time. And regardless of what reason is used next time to try and remove him, it sounds like he's going to fight back much, much harder next time. So I'm going to just say, I welcome Richard Stallman back to the FSF, and hopefully you don't say anything too stupid too quickly. Now, if you want to go and donate to the FSF or become a member of their organization, you can go and do so on their website over here. I don't know what sort of donations they actually support. Let's go and find out. I presume there's going to be probably some crypto donations in here. You can donate in cash. No, they don't have crypto donations. Why do you not have crypto donations? Step into the modern year. I know there are definitely going to be some people who are going to cancel their FSF membership because Richard Stallman is back, but I also know that when he was removed, there were a bunch of people who decided to leave as well, so maybe it'll balance itself out. Let me know in the comment section what you think about Richard Stallman returning to the FSF. Are you someone who never wants to see his face again, or are you with me and think this is ultimately going to be a good thing for free software in general? So I think that's pretty much everything for me, but before I go, I would like to thank my supporters. So a special thank you to Chris, Joachim, Donald, Michael, Andre, Nathan, David Monzar, Will, Brennan, Chico Bento, Jamie Joseph, Mitchell, Peter D, Stephen, Tony Tushar, and all of my $2 supporters. If you'd like to go support my work, there are links down below to my Patreon, subscribe star, LibrePlanet, all that sort of stuff. I've got my podcast, Tech over T, available basically anywhere, and then if you watch these videos somewhere that isn't YouTube, you can go watch them on Odyssey and BitChute. So I think that's pretty much everything for me, and I'm out.